Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we have lined up for you. Ontario and Atlantic Canada brace for icy winter weather with heavy snow and high winds. Plus, a recall petition is launched for Alberta Premier Danielle Smith in her riding of Brooks Medicine Hat. And the Chinook Hospital Foundation introduces a new breast cancer treatment where magnets are used to locate tumors.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks so much for joining us. Ontario residents will need to move over because Old Man Winter is moving in. A near 20-degree drop in temperature is coming over the next 24 hours for parts of northeastern Ontario. Environment Canada says a cold front moving to the southeast is expected to push temperatures down in Timmins, Ontario from around -4 to -23 degrees Celsius by tomorrow morning. The city posted a warning on their social media. The colder than usual temperatures are also coming for parts of southern Ontario over the next few days. Folks in Atlantic Canada are also being battered by winter weather. Environment Canada says you need to keep the snow blowers and snow shovels handy.
Nova Scotia, we're looking at some significant snowfall over western parts of the province, running from Annapolis County right up through to Cumberland County and then across to Antigonish County and into western Cape Breton as well, with 15 to 25 centimeters possible for some of those areas. For PEI and southeastern New Brunswick, looking at about 10 to 15 centimeters total there. All three of these provinces, there's going to be some rain mixed in as well with the snow. So it's a very tricky forecast, and it's going to be some very wet and heavy snow as well. So amounts could fluctuate based on proximity to the coast, as well as anyone that's over some higher terrain, a little bit cooler air over higher mountains, Copacut Pass area, Cape Breton Highlands, those sorts of areas. And so they could see a little bit more snow, actually. And this system's going to pass out Nova Scotia, but then push up towards Newfoundland overnight. And they're expected to get some weather from this as well. Lots of the eastern half of the island are under warning as well. We're looking at significant snowfall amounts for parts of the East Coast, with maximum amounts of 30 to 40 centimeters possible for some areas around the Clarenville, Terra Nova area. Avalon Peninsula and parts of central Newfoundland will see lesser amounts than that, but still anywhere from 10 to possibly 20 or 25 centimeters there.
Some eastern areas of Newfoundland and Labrador will see heavy rain and high winds as well. The weather has also knocked out power to more than 30,000 homes and businesses in Nova Scotia. Windsor, Coldbrick, and Dartmouth areas have been hardest hit. In New Brunswick, power is out for about 2,000 customers in the St. John area. Maritime Electric is reporting over 2,600 customers without power across PEI. Ontario chiefs who are part of the Assembly of First Nations are demanding the government immediately reintroduce First Nations clean water legislation. In an address to the General Assembly on Tuesday, Prime Minister Mark Carney promised the federal government would reintroduce Bill C-61 in the spring. While the Ontario chiefs want the bill reintroduced now, they're concerned the new bill could see some protections rolled back.
First Nations have waited too long. Municipalities, towns, and cities, when under a water advisory, do not have to wait that long. We have also heard that Canada intends to make amendments to the legislation, potentially weakening it. This is completely unacceptable. The legislation, Bill C-61, recognizes the role of First Nations in drinking water and wastewater management. It acknowledges our relationship with water, and it recognizes that we should have the autonomy to make our own decisions about our own water. It allows for the creation of standards and regulations. This is so important. As of right now, First Nations do not have enforceable regulations in place.
It's been way too long. 30 years. Plus a boil water advisory, 11,264 days. The system of Canada and Ontario is not working. We are treaty partners with the lands or Anishinaabe. That's our homelands. And here we're treated like, well, third world. I am in the third world.
The original Bill C-61 was close to passing in the House of Commons, but died on the order paper when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau resigned and prorogued Parliament earlier this year. People of faith across the country are being encouraged to step up and make their voices heard by signing a petition regarding the government's hate speech bill C-9. It was revealed this week that the minority Liberal government, with support from the Bloc Québécois, is considering an amendment that would remove religious exemptions from hate speech laws. In other words, you could be prosecuted for quoting a scripture that's been deemed hate speech. Author and commentator Faitine Grisici, who heads up the group For My Canada, says it's time for all of us to not just sign petitions, but to also speak up.
I'm the girl who just wrote the book, If Not Now, Then When? So, I think my answer to that is like, bring your voice all the time, every day on every issue that you care about, but do it with love. I think what you definitely don't want to do is start edging into civic engagement and dialogue and have the wrong spirit. And I think that's the strength that we have as Christians is, if we're rooted in Christ, ideally, we will also have the fruit of the Spirit, to speak the truth, but to do it in love. But this is also biblical, that we be a voice for the voiceless, that we stand up against injustice. And this, I think about my kids. What I say to those that are watching from the faith community is that if we won't do it for us, then let's do it for them. Let's do it for our kids and our grandkids. And let's make sure that we're leaving them a nation where they will be able to read the Bible, teach the Bible, and express their authentically held biblical views without fear of prosecution and criminal consequence.
You can find the Bill C-9 petition at formycanada.com, and that is the number formycanada.com. Some promising news from the Middle East. Israel says it will reopen the Rafah border crossing into Egypt. The announcement has raised hopes that thousands of sick and wounded people in Gaza will finally be able to access the care they need, but there are complications. We get more from Julia Frankel with the Associated Press.
The Rafah crossing has been largely sealed off since May 2024, when Israeli forces invaded that area and shut the crossing down. There are complications to its opening. Israel says it will only be open for Palestinians wishing to leave Gaza. That's until Israel gets all of its hostages back. Egypt, meanwhile, says that it wants the crossing to be open in both directions so Palestinians can enter and exit Gaza. It's also not yet clear what the criteria will be for Palestinians to exit. Israel has said they need to meet Israeli security approval. And finally, it's not clear how many people Egypt will be willing to accept. But one thing is for sure, which is that if the Rafah crossing opens, that will be a major step forward in the U.S.-brokered peace plan for Gaza.
In other news, the group behind a series of recall petitions targeting UCP MLAs says it has received approval for a recall petition for Alberta Premier Danielle Smith in her Brooks Medicine Hat riding. While it's yet to be confirmed by Elections Alberta, the website Operation Total Recall says paperwork for a recall petition has been approved. The recall movement began after Smith's government used the notwithstanding clause to force striking teachers back to work. A petition organizer identified only as Heather V. said in a statement, quote, Smith has no meaningful connection to the community and constituents may have been struggling to get a hold of her to express their concerns. The Alberta government has cancelled procurement for chartered surgical facilities in Red Deer and Lethbridge. Hospitals Minister Matt Jones made the surprise announcement Tuesday in the legislature.
And I'm pleased to share that the procurements for the Central and South Zone surgical facilities have been cancelled. And going forward, procurement practices are procurement and contracting is being transferred to the Health Shared Services Organization. We've hired a consultant, RSM, to align our procurement and contracting procedures with the best jurisdictions in the world. And, Mr. Speaker, that's going to result in more transparent, accountable, and public processes for all Albertans.
Procurement at Alberta Health Services has been under fire since the release of an October 2025 report in which the Auditor General Doug Wiley highlighted conflicts of interest that affected the procurement process. Questions have been raised about government contracts awarded to companies owned by businessman Sam Mirachi. Former AHS CEO Anthana Mentzelopoulos is in court fighting a wrongful dismissal case, a dismissal she claims is linked to her investigation into private surgical contracts. Alberta's opposition NDP has been calling for a full public inquiry into what has been dubbed the corrupt care scandal. The Alberta government is pumping more funding into issues around classroom complexity. Education Minister Dimitrios Nicolaides says the province will be investing $69 million over the next 3 years in the Mental Health and Wellbeing Grant.
I think this is an exciting moment, though. Previously, dedicated mental health funding was not provided to school divisions. School divisions just came off a period where there was funding provided on a temporary pilot basis. There was no guarantee of that funding continuing. And so in Budget 25 and with this funding, we're able to announce the first time establishment of a mental health and well-being grant. And I think that's a significant step forward in helping to address some of the challenges that we see in our classrooms.
School boards will be able to use the grant funding to train staff in social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices, and violence threat risk assessment. They can also use the funds to bring in wellness coaches or counselors to provide in-school mental health support, as well as delivering social emotional learning in classrooms. Up to 20% of the grant can be used on individualized supports and services. A 17-year-old youth in Calgary is facing charges after allegedly using artificial intelligence to create child sexual abuse and exploitation material. Alert's Internet Child Exploitation, or ICE unit, began its investigation in October after AI technology was used to sexualize photos of teen girls that attended several different high schools in the Calgary area. A search warrant was executed at a Calgary home on November 13th with the help of Calgary police. Investigators seized 2 cell phones, a tablet, and a laptop. ICE is not identifying the suspect nor the high school in order to protect the identity of the victims. Police say support services have been provided for the victims. The 17-year-old has been charged with possessing and distributing child sexual abuse and exploitation materials along with criminal harassment. His next scheduled court appearance is January 8th. An innovative approach to breast cancer surgery has arrived in Lethbridge. On Tuesday, the MagSeed and MagTrace pilot project implemented its first magnetically guided tumor localization seed about the size of a grain of rice, followed by the first surgery on Wednesday. Dr. David Stewart, he's the medical director of the AHS South Zone, explains how this technology is transforming breast cancer surgery in southern Alberta.
When somebody has a breast cancer, to implant a tiny little seed into the breast, specifically where the cancer is. Days gone by, we used to find cancer because there was a hard lump in someone's breast, but we're doing more preventative screening now. Many women now are preventatively having mammograms, so we're picking cancers up at a much smaller time, which is wonderful. It's easier to treat, but sometimes in surgery it's actually harder to find because you don't really know where it is. This will allow us to, in advance, put a little tracer in the breast that is magnetic, and so the surgeon at the time of surgery now can go in and can very well easily localize it. Through doing this, less people will have to go back for a secondary surgery because we didn't quite get it all. And it can be put in days, weeks, or even months in advance. It will be removed with the entirety of the tumor is the object of the surgery, to take the tumor out.
The generous gift from donors to be able to support the 3-year pilot project for MagSeed MagTrace. This project is improving care for women with breast cancer all across southwestern Alberta. This project is over a 3-year period, totals almost $800,000. So it's a significant investment.
It improves the comfort, it improves the accuracy of the diagnosis, and improves the treatment and the speed of how this works. And our surgeons and radiologists have been really asking for this and looking forward to using this for a number of years.
Chinook Regional Hospital is second only to Calgary adopting this technology, joining a select group of Canadian hospitals bringing magnetic-guided tumor localization as the standard for care for patients facing breast cancer. Incredible. Well, the City of Lethbridge and the union representing firefighters have reached a new 4-year agreement covering 2021 to 2025. One of the major innovations of the new deal is that it allows Lethbridge Fire and Emergency Service to implement a new operating model within the department by introducing an EMS operational division. LFES will be able to maintain its integrated fire and EMS service, but also allow staff to remain in the EMS division if they choose.
The EMS division is an ability for us to hire paramedics that are out there in the workforce. We're operating in a very tight labor market, and we do see a difficulty in bringing in advanced care paramedics. So what this EMS division does is allow us to recruit and attract paramedics to our service and allow them the ability to work as paramedics without having to perform and complete their firefighter training right off the bat. One of the benefits that we see with this, and one of the hindrances that we have seen in the past, is attracting advanced care paramedics that can initially pass the firefighter physical test. It's a very, very challenging test. With our new model, we can still bring those people in, whereas before potentially we would lose those candidates. So this is a 5-year term, retroactive to 2021. So over the 5 years total, it's 16.25%.
The Deputy Fire Chief, Kevin McEwen, says the 16.25% wage increase progressed gradually over the 5-year period. Lethbridge Police are preparing to host their 6th annual charity check stop this weekend in support of the city's Christmas Hope initiative. LPS officers and staff will be on site near Park Place Mall collecting gifts, non-perishable food items, and donations to the various charities and organizations that are raising the Christmas spirit this season.
Christmas Hope coordinates donations from the Interfaith Food Bank, the Lethbridge Food Bank, Lethbridge Family Services Angel Tree, My City Care, Shop of Wonders, the Salvation Army, Toys for Tots, Volunteer Lethbridge, and new this year, the Lethbridge Senior Citizens Organization, Golden Giving Tree. The goal is to ultimately limit any duplication of services so that everyone in the community receives what is needed during this holiday season.
And at the end of the day, they will all come back to Lethbridge Family Services where we sort them and everyone gets an equal share of all of the proceeds that come into us, whether it's cash donations and toys. And then on Sunday morning, they all get to come and pick up their goodies and distribute them to their organizations and to the families who really, really need them this season. And it means a lot to be able to partner with all of these people, and without it, we wouldn't be able to continue going forward.
Officers will be volunteering at the mall's parking lot by the former Sears location this Saturday from noon till 4 p.m. Lethbridge County, in collaboration with the municipalities of Colehurst, Picture Butte, Nobleford, and Barrens, conducted their first joint regional emergency management tabletop exercise. The session was to understand the logistics of a local emergency and create a process when theoretical incidents or disasters occur. The partnership, signed in late 2024, created a complete response plan that saw 50 municipal staff members trained to respond effectively. The scenario presented today in question was a summer storm producing a tornado, with fires and water challenges occurring in other jurisdictions.
It's really important that we're all on the same page. We use what's called incident command system that allows us to all speak the same language, all work from the same playbook. We also have our regional emergency management plan that we launched earlier this year. So it's really important that we're following that book, and we know that whatever everybody's doing, it's all focused back around those processes that we have.
Fire is an integral part of emergency management, but it is not the only part. And so a disaster occurs when your resources are overwhelmed. And so while those departments might work well together, what do we do when we need a large-scale evacuation? What do we do when those departments don't have the resources and the bench strength internally to be able to support that response? So this gives us an opportunity to pool that together, to see what would happen when those resources are overwhelmed, how we pull on our regional partners, and how we come together to support them in an event that far exceeds what they normally would experience in those mutual aid type situations.
The county is advising residents that the best step of readiness is education and to individually prepare themselves for any scenario, plus ensuring they get the correct information from reliable sources. And before we take a break, we want to say thank you to everyone who participated in Giving Tuesday here on Miracle Channel. Our goal was to raise $20,000 to have our daily devotional devoted, translated into Ukrainian. Well, we are happy to say thanks to your generosity, we surpassed our goal, raising more than $25,000. Thank you again for being part of Miracle Channel. The Laurentian Bank is being split up and sold, with its commercial operations going to Fairstone Bank of Canada in a $1.9 billion deal. The National Bank is buying the retail and small business segment for roughly its book value. Here is more in this report by the Canadian Press.
The deal is the culmination of years of struggles at Laurentian to turn itself around or find a buyer willing to pay enough to satisfy shareholders. Under the deal, the Laurentian name will live on as part of Fairstone, with the head office of the commercial segment to remain in Montreal. But its presence on the main streets of Quebec will not. Laurentian's 57 branches won't be transferred over to National Bank, nor will its workers, who will instead have the option to apply for open roles at the company. The move will affect the majority of Laurentian's roughly 2,700 employees, though it's not clear how many will stay on as part of the commercial operations at Fairstone. Laurentian's CEO says its customers will benefit from more services and better technology at National. Jefferies analyst John Aiken says the deal looks about as good as could be expected for Laurentian shareholders and is also a boost for National Bank's loan book and scale.
A source has told the Canadian Press that no competing bids for Hudson's Bay's Royal Charter have emerged, paving the way for the Thompson and Weston families to purchase the artifact for $18 million. The charter, dating back to 1670, created Hudson's Bay and gave the business a fur trading monopoly, along with control of 1/3 of modern Canada and Indigenous relations for decades to come. It has been in need of a new home since HBC filed for creditor protection in March and began selling assets to make back some of the $1 billion it owed creditors. Now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX is up 111 to 31,160. The Dow is up 408 to 47,882. The S&P 500 was up 20 to 6,849, and the Nasdaq was up 40 to 23,454. West Texas Intermediate oil was up 49 cents to $59.09 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 16 cents to $5 US. Gold was down $3.45 to $42.0269 US an ounce, and silver was up 3 cents to $58.47 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.57 per bushel. Barley is at $5.94. Canola is at $14.27, and corn is at $7.47 per bushel. Live cattle were up 47 cents to $218.95. Feeder cattle January contract was up $1.97 to $331.85, and lean hogs were up 5 cents to $80.55. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours and currently sits at 71.70 US.
Recapping one of our top stories, the group targeting Alberta UCP MLAs with recall petitions has now targeted Premier Danielle Smith. While Elections Alberta has yet to confirm it, the group Operation Total Recall says paperwork for the recall has been approved. The constituents pushing the recalls are upset with the government for using the notwithstanding clause to force striking teachers back to work. The U.S. continues its peace efforts between Russia and Ukraine. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth addresses the attack on an alleged Venezuelan drug boat, and Trump follows through on his threat of suspending the processing of immigration applications from 19 countries. Lisa Daftari, editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, will join me to talk about this and more international news. That's all coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or our YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our stories and interviews.